The skies over Donetsk once again thundered, not with the roar of fighter jets, but with the piercing hum of small, deadly machines. In the Lyman Direction, Ukraine's 63rd Separate Mechanized Brigade demonstrated how modern warfare is no longer determined by the number of troops on the ground, but by the sharpness of their eyes in the sky. In an aerial operation captured on camera, Ukrainian drone operators left no room for the enemy, as 22 Russian soldiers were destroyed in quick succession by combat drones, as if the enemy's defenses were being forced to collapse by a relentless death conveyor. Footage from the front lines showed the moments when the invaders' every step became a target, their every movement monitored, and every attempt at resistance was shattered with precision blasts. Nothing could stop this death conveyor. One by one, the invaders fell, those running across the open field becoming clear prey for the operators waiting for their moment to pull the trigger. Those hiding in the rubble were merely prolonging their final seconds of life before the overhead buzzing sound ignited panic, and the drones descended, struck, and wiped out the remaining defenses. For the Russian forces, the Lyman Direction was no longer a battle zone, but a hunting ground. Each explosion sounded like a death knell, reminding them that they had no cover, no safe space. For Ukraine, this operation was a clear demonstration of unmanned aerial dominance. The operators of the 63rd Brigade were tireless, gave no pause, and showed no mercy. With calm hands and sharp eyes, they transformed simple technology into the most effective tool of destruction on the modern battlefield. That day, in the Lyman Direction, 22 Russian invaders fell without a chance to resist. Each explosion concluded their short story on Ukrainian soil, a land that refused to be colonized, and now, with small, invisible wings of steel, returned death to those who brought it. At present, Russian forces are on the verge of losing yet another stronghold, as Ukrainian advances isolate and dismantle their defenses with relentless precision. The Ukrainians advanced into the next Russian-held village, while the Russian command fell back on its only tactic, throwing more troops into the slaughter, accelerating the collapse of the Sumy offensive. This sent shockwaves through the Kremlin, as Vladimir Putin himself has fired the general who was responsible for this grand operation. Ukrainian advances have cut off the village of Alexifka on 3 sides, leaving only a narrow tree line for Russian forces to move supplies and reinforcements. Even that passage is under constant Ukrainian fire control, as drones saturate the skies, preventing movement during the day, while artillery and precision strikes cover the night. Russian sources admit command and control has effectively broken down near Alexifka, where Russian units are battered by endless Ukrainian strikes. For the troops trapped inside, there is little chance of meaningful support, and those Russians ordered to provide relief are eliminated even before nearing the village. Fighting has reached the southern outskirts and even the center of the village, where Russian forces are clinging to positions under increasingly desperate conditions. Russian analysts themselves admit that Alexifka has turned into a meat grinder, with defenders being worn down day by day. For Ukraine, there is no rush to lose forces in frontal assaults, as the plan is to squeeze the pocket until collapse becomes inevitable. Yet Russian commanders have refused to acknowledge reality, and instead of organizing an orderly retreat, they continue to demand assaults. In other directions, the Russians usually rely on sending 1 to 2 soldiers at a time to avoid detection, but here they are ordered forward in groups of 4 to 10 at a time, which only makes them more visible and easy targets. Ukrainian drones picked them off in batches, turning misguided orders into slaughter. Anger has boiled over even among Russian military analysts, who accuse commanders of sacrificing troops to preserve their own reputations. Efforts to relieve Alexifka from nearby sectors have fared no better. As previously reported, at Kondrativka, Russia redeployed an already understrength battalion to counterattack the Ukrainian flank and relieve pressure off the besieged Alexifka. Unfortunately for the Russian battalion, tactical cohesion and command had completely broken down, as their attacks devolved into successive waves of Russian troops trying to cross a reservoir under heavy Ukrainian fire. Russian soldiers were tracked already on the approaches and engaged with FPV kamikaze drones. Several Russian soldiers were even hunted as they leapt into the water itself, and were finished off nonetheless. Survivors were left stranded or cut down on the opposite bank, with the repeated failures highlighting Russia's lack of reconnaissance and inability to adapt. The crisis has now caused a major military casualty, as Colonel General Alexander Lapin, Supreme Commander of the Leningrad Military District, has finally been fired and dismissed from active service. Lapin was already infamous for losing Lyman in 2022 during Ukraine's Kharkiv counteroffensive, and for presiding over the Ukrainian Kursk incursion in 2024, where he was not able to repel the Ukrainians as quickly as Russian political leadership desired, and with much too high casualties. Most recently, he commanded the northern grouping of forces responsible for offensives in Kharkiv and Sumy, and under his leadership, Russia failed to secure any lasting buffer zone despite months of grinding attacks. Putin has traditionally avoided outright firing top commanders to prevent discontent within the military hierarchy, often instead reassigning them elsewhere. However, Lapin's dismissal marks a rare break from this pattern, reflecting just how catastrophic the Sumy operation has been for the Russians. Overall, the Ukrainian approach in Sumy is working exactly as intended. Instead of rushing forward, commanders are methodically isolating villages, cutting Russian supply routes, and then bleeding the trapped defenders dry until the settlement collapses. Alexifka is the latest proof of this method, with defenders already surrounded and reinforcements destroyed before they can make a difference. Russia's refusal to adapt has cost them thousands of troops, and now even a general. With General Lapin gone, Russia will shuffle the chain of command. But this cosmetic change will not reverse the structural problems within the Russian army, disrupting their logistics